Okay, I think that we are live.
Yay!
Yay! So hello, hi. So I will start by presenting Syinat Sultanalieva. Is it the right way of telling of saying your family name? Of course not.
A little bit not.
How do you say it?
Sultanalieva.
Sultanalieva. Okay, so
Yeah.
Syinat, it's a board member of the ELC, and she's also an author of science fiction and an amazing activist for a long time from Central Asia. She is living in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. And she will be with me today to discuss a little bit about this movie No Gravity. Syinat, it's really an amazing writer and author of science fiction. Syinat, you were telling me that you are trying to come again to your writing practice.
Yeah.
And then we have some other friends here. Not a lot of friends here because we had a small fear of having a kind of an attack or a video bombing of our discussion, because in the last 2 days there were some threats going on especially on Twitter by some aliens coming from outer space. But no, they were very real, and most of them are masculinist activists. So we are doing that without the big audience that we were hoping to have. So we have restricted the number of people who are participating, but I hope that there will be some connections via our Facebook Live, the ELC Facebook Live, because we are also broadcasting this Q&A via Facebook. And I am Silvia Casalino. I'm also work for the ELC, but I am also the director of this documentary, No Gravity. In my previous life, I was a rocket scientist, a space engineer. And so I have made this movie like a finishing point of my space career. I have made this documentary about women in space, and also lesbians, dykes, queers, non-binary, and other kins in space. So I don't know, Syinat, you rewatched the movie just today, but you already watched it some times ago. What do you think about this kind of strange mix between different archives, real life, etc.?
I thought it was really great. I mean, of course, I was very impressed by the fact that there's Donna Haraway in the film as well. And you have such a regular kind of a friendship relationship with her, with somebody that we are like, oh, Donna Haraway, the Cyborg Manifesto and everything. That was super impressive. And also,
yeah, just to explain for the others, Donna Haraway, it's a philosopher. She's also a scientist. She was a biologist. So she is working really in criticizing the science and the way the science is made, the way the science is formatted by our stereotypes, which are true for every domain. And of course, they are also true for science. So just to tell you, the Donna Haraway part, when I was interviewing her, I was so concentrating to understand what she was telling. I didn't understand nothing. I mean, she was speaking so fast, and her concept was so complicated that I was, okay, she said that. How can I say now? So it was really complicated. Sorry, go on.
Wow, Viola, I mean, you cannot really see it in the film. I think I don't know. I mean, I think you're actually just not really saying the truth. I think you understood everything, and you're just trying to appear that you didn't understand. Okay, because I mean, you chose all the right sort of like I don't know, parts of the interview to add into the film. And they all really made sense, like story-wise, as well, how the things we were discussing, or like the things that the women were discussing in the movie. I really just adore that. And there was this just one moment, I actually prepared the thing. There was this one moment, I think her name is Claudia, right? She's the first French woman that went to space in the 1993, and then 2001.
Claudia Ray.
Yeah, yeah. And at some point you were talking about like, or she was talking about the 3 extraterrestrial joys that she felt. And you know, the way she was describing it, and I was looking at her and I was thinking that, oh my God, like for me right now, the things that she's saying, they really reminded me of this famous monologue from Blade Runner, where Roy Batty says, and I'm just gonna, you know, he's this sort of, well, I guess you could say he's a cyborg, right?
Yes,
he's a replicant, yeah. And he says, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watch sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time like tears in rain. Time to die. I mean, well, not the time to die part, but you know, like the thing that I've seen things you people haven't seen and wouldn't believe. And I just, at this moment, I just realized that she really did see things that I mean, I can only hope that, I don't know, when I'm 90 years old, you know, there will be a communist, I don't know, or anarchist world, and space travel is free and just, you know, available to everyone, and we're all super healthy, and then we can all go there and see this. But until then, I'm gonna be that person that wouldn't believe what she saw, and I wouldn't even be able to imagine it in a way, or I guess I could imagine, but you know the feeling.
But it's very interesting. I mean, what you are saying is totally interesting. This was the most fascinating part of. We were all madly in love with Claudia Ray and her images from the archives, because she is this gorgeous women, I think. I mean, they are all super beautiful, all of them. And Claudia Ray also, she has this kind of sexiness somehow. And so we were totally in love. But then she is a very strict person. She was not a person which is I mean, she's not communicating a lot of feelings. So when you are doing a film, I mean, I wasn't aware, but then they explained to me, the professionals who were with me, my crew of dykes, the camera woman and the sound woman, and they explained to me that what works when you interview people is when they are communicating emotions. And so the audience then can feel this emotion that the person is explaining. And this was the most emotional part of her intervention. And the other thing which is really fascinating is that you are doing this parallel between a very important science fiction movie and what a real astronaut is saying, and how she is telling her experience. But a big part of the movie, it's about that. And I never noticed that Claudie is speaking like the replicant in Blade Runner, but I know that what we wanted to do is also to show how, for example, the staging of the first human embarking for a space trip, it was Yuri Gagarin, and then they did the same for Valentina Tereshkova. It was somehow framed with the same images coming from a 1929 movie from Fritz Lang, which this movie, it's the black and white movie. And so we have put together the images from the black and white movie and the images from Valentina Tereshkova, which were television images. And the way they are filming Valentina Tereshkova going up to the rockets, it's really similar to this 29 movie from Fritz Lang, which is called Women on the Moon, Frau im Mond.
Oh, wow.
So
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so science fiction is really influencing and shaping the way that then we are telling stories somehow. So the science fiction arrives first, and then the technology and the science arrive after, and the way we try to tell the stories, the scientific or technological stories, it's really taken from the science fiction narration.
That's true.
And I think that from the images, you were speaking about images. I remember one moment in your. I hope that we can share it with the people who are listening. Syinat has written a very beautiful small novel about a very far away planet where there is a colony of incredible lesbians, women, queer, non-binary, trans, diverse kind of people, but very nice. And the way you are presenting what the person which is coming from Earth sees, it's totally amazing, because it's this same kind of, how can I describe something that nobody knows how it will be? So this person entering to this hotel in space, to this kind of, yeah, it's a kind of hotel or the place where they are staying for the night. It's totally amazing. And when I was reading it, I was, wow, it really looks like I am there and I am seeing things that I never saw before.
That's so nice. Thanks.
But how did you, I mean, how you were writing this long scene where when you are seeing something in another planet and you don't know at all what it is?
Yeah. Well, I guess this is sort of like, sort of like getting like, or like falling into a trance-like state, in a way where I am imagining myself and I'm sort of like really trying to describe it. But also what really helped in this situation is that I needed like a guide, somebody who we know, somebody who, we will probably even have friends like that person, like the person from Earth, the ambassador, and she's, she's misogynistic, and she's probably like internally lesbophobic, although she tries to be, to have this whole bravado thing. Yeah, I was born lesbian, blah blah blah. But I mean, she's misogynistic, and she's miserable, to be honest, on Earth, right? So she's super excited about being there, but she's also holding back, and she also wants to earn sort of, support and praise from her very patriarchal family back home. So I needed this person that we all recognize. And I don't know, at some point, maybe we all have been this person. I don't know, some of us have transitioned from this person early on. I don't know, like maybe we don't even remember how we were like that. I remember myself, to be honest, because like, before I came to Labris, I was a very misogynistic and actually quite lesbophobic person. It's a funny story that I always tell to people. And because I was like, yeah, well, men, I understand homosexuals because men are so amazing. If I was a man, I would fall in love with a man because they're so cool. And why did I think so? Because I read all these science fiction books and movies, and all the main characters, there are all these brave men, and they're super smart, and they're super amazing, and they're saving Earth all the time, and I don't know, or other civilizations, and they're just super stylish, and they get all the best lines, and the women are always, damsels in distress mostly. So of course, you get conditioned to think that this is how everything is, and women are just not so much, whereas men are like, whoa, amazing. So I was that person, I was that ambassador, and I wanted the person that like and it's also the story is written from how do you call it, the first person narrative. So you really see it through her eyes, like the planet and the people that are there. And I don't know, I think maybe that also did the trick, that it's someone who's very familiar to us. It's someone we may not like. I also tried to make her not very likable. So people are like, oh, she's doing this again, that kind of stuff. But also she's very familiar, and she's a familiar person in an unfamiliar environment, in an environment that's a fantasy for us. But, a lot of the times we cannot really imagine what this other world can be like. And you got to stop me at some point, because now I have this whole other idea that I want to share, that from my research, when I was doing my dissertation for my PhD, right, I was studying women activists, feminists in Kyrgyzstan, and one of my sort of questions to all the women was I was asking them to imagine this future where their goals have been reached, that, you know, like their organization has reached their strategic goal, you know, whatever their mission is. I'm like, yeah, it's there. So what is it? Please describe this future to me. What do you see? And then they would get stuck. They would be like, well, you know, there is a woman president. Nobody's discriminating women. Women can do whatever they want. But I'm like, but give me a taste of it. Give me a picture. Give me a visual, I don't know, as some kind of a sense, not just these, you know, like regular words that just are just basically stuff that's coming from your strategic plan, you know? And then, and that's where people would get stuck. They'd be like, you know, well, no, it's just, everything's great. That's all. So that's at this stage, I was like realizing that imagining the future is really hard. And maybe that's also the problem that utopian activists like us, because I think feminism is utopian in a way, right? Not in a bad way, because we're trying to imagine a better future. But a lot of the times we get stuck on these sort of like formulaic definitions of what we want to see, but we cannot really imagine everyday, you know, pictures or scenes from this future when we have become victorious. And maybe that's also a problem, I think, for movements like ours. We need to be able to imagine those things. We need to be able to imagine new kinds of relationships with each other, with the environment, I don't know, with ourselves or something like that.
I totally agree. I think that really your novel, it's really speaking about that. And we also had a small discussion this morning, and you were saying something which I think it's very interesting. You were saying, you know, there are a lot of different dystopian products that looks like science fiction, but they are not science fiction.
Mm-hmm,
can you re-elaborate on that?
Yeah. So we were talking about how science fiction is more about sort of like imagining. It's a more how to call it, inductive, I guess, the best way. It opens up the imagination, right?
It's called something like speculation.
Oh, yeah, speculative fiction, kind of like you can open up, and you don't have to base it on anything. Whereas there is also like fantasy works or dystopian novels, like 1984, maybe, right? Or, you know, there are many others like that, stories which are based in this fantastical kind of a world, or not earthly world, or some kind of an alternative world. But what they mostly do is they try to show reality, but in an allegorical way, right? So that we are able to see that, oh, if we continue with this culture of consumerism, we're going to end up in the world of the brave new world, right? Or if we, I don't know, if we continue with communism, then we'll end up in 1984 or whatever. So yeah, and that kind of stories are also, I think they're also good because they show us things that we may not be able to see, or maybe not us, maybe those generations before that were, you know, because we're the generation that's grown up on the idea of, you know, of postmodernism, Foucault, I don't know, and decolonial thought, and there's a lot more diversity of ideas and critiques and understandings of the world, right? But at the time when these novels or dystopian novels were created, I mean, world was a lot more modernist in that sense. It was very kind of like forward-looking and everything. So yeah, it was also the time when these novels were published that it was necessary to serve as this kind of a warning that, you know, people, let's not get too complacent right now. You know, there's dangers, and if we keep on doing something, then we'll end up somewhere bad. But the problem with these kind of stories is that they only show the reality that, yeah, maybe many people don't see, but they don't really show the way out. The only way out that they usually end up with, and then, you know, like, and you don't actually get to see the action itself, but usually it's some kind of a revolution, some kind of a change in the status quo, and then, you know, like you turn the page and it's the end, and we're like, but how did that happen? That's the most important part, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they just don't do that.
And what I was thinking is maybe because before you were saying that you have a kind of a vision, or you are always looking for this kind of utopian vision of when we have reached all our goals, what the world will be like. And I think that in the movie, in No Gravity, I have tried something which is a little bit more like the journey into there, meaning that I was having some interviews during those last months, because I think that the NASA selected a crew of astronauts to go to the moon and then maybe to go to Mars, and there are a lot of chances that probably there will be a woman on the moon, because we never had one. So it will be a great first step of the humanity if a woman can touch the ground of the moon. And so there were journalists asking me about that, and they were saying, okay, but what will change if there are a crew of or if we have more women on a space shuttle, etc. And what I was able to tell them is that I think that maybe there are not a lot of things that will change, but I really think that like for all our projects from a feminist point of view, the important thing is that if we are able to construct a crew of women, maybe this journey will not be the journey of an hero who goes to the moon to conquer the moon, etc., but it will be more the journey of a group of people who learn how to work together. And and all the movie No Gravity was made in this sense, was made in the sense of how we connect with each other, how we connect with all the different histories at different in different time lapse, always having in mind that at the end we have to form a crew, a group that it's able to cope with really some difficult situation, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because space is not a very easy place to go. And so I think that the nice part that I will imagine is to try to have for once something that it's more what we do together than what is the hero doing, which I don't care anymore, because we have seen thousands and thousands of heroes doing crazy things. So now what interested me was to show what a group can do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that is also feminist sci-fi in that sense, that you're imagining in your movie, you're imagining this, like you're saying, this different approach, right? This is collective approach and it's a careful approach where people are careful to each other and caring of each other,
and there are
as well.
And there are also animals, microbes, iguanas,
exactly.
plants. There are plants everywhere.
Yeah, and there's no idea of the sterility or like of this something pure, something very rational. And I'm just gonna keep on coming up with these binaries, right? There's pure, rational, sterile, male, mostly very logical stuff, and then there's everything else that's like I don't know, unsterile and mixed and not very pure, emotional, dark, I don't know, some kind of those things that are usually associated with us in a way, right? And that's also that's basically that's the biggest thing that I really like about your movie, is that it is about this collective effort and how all these different generations of women have been contributing to this sort of like big story of women in space, basically. And that's so much better than stories that are supposedly, to be honest, lately. I mean, I might be going into maybe some subjectively difficult, challenging area, and people might eat me alive later. But stories like, say, I don't know, Wonder Woman or Captain America or something like that, which have been praised as these feminist icon kind of movies and stuff like that, because they are talking about female superheroes, right? And yes, in terms of representation, that's great that it's not just males who are superheroes, but just again, there's just this whole notion that again, there's this just one person, one individual who can save the whole planet. and who's super invincible and beautiful and, you know, like in a very conventional way and all of that stuff. It's just, you know, taking a male figure, adding some nice body to it and hair, long hair also, let's not forget that, you know, and dressing them up in latex or whatever, and saying, yeah, this is a female superhero, amazing. So, but, you know, like the approach remains the same. The approach is the same. The hero, it's a very masculine or masculinist, I don't know, male-centric kind of an understanding of what heroism is. Whereas I think that feminist fiction, speculative fiction, feminist sci-fi should be more about exactly these sort of like stories of different groups and I don't know, whole planets doing it together or something like that.
Yeah, this I think is the most fascinating part of the feminist science fiction, which is really speaking about like entities which are totally amazing because you don't even know. I mean, it's not like you said, it's not the guy in the spaceship doing some crazy things. It's more like the plants, the planet, the group of aliens who have their brain in their hands, so they all think together. So all this kind of different way of thinking the reality. And I think that it's the feminist science fiction has brought all this imagination to our lives. So I think that it's very nice. And there is one, I don't know if you we were speaking about that, but I forgot to ask you, do you know about what is slash fiction or fan fiction? Do you follow a little bit this kind of things?
Of course. I wrote slash fiction.
Okay, because you were proposing at one point to do an experience here with our lesbian Asterix community to create a kind of a story when everybody is writing a small part and then we put everything together and we have a whole story. But in the way we were editing also the movie, No Gravity, we always try to create also some slash fiction, because in our mind it was very difficult to imagine how we will use those women, which are sometimes very severe. You see the Russian Adilia Kotovskaya. She's something. She's not making jokes a little bit. Sometimes she's making jokes. I love her. And Claudia Ray, and so they were very serious. And then there were all these images from technology, from space technology, which are very cold, very like you see, fascinating, but really cold and difficult to use in a kind of organic way. And then there were me cycling and running and doing stupid things, because I was always my camera woman was always telling me a new Dyke is born. She was always telling me that a new Dyke is born, because I was am I well on the camera? And so and we were trying to edit all those materials, but we were trying to imagine some kind of love stories or even sexy stories between all of them. So we were really trying to put them together like they were partners, not sexual partners, because slash fiction and fan fiction, it's a lot about sexuality and dating and having things together, but also about friendship, about partnership. And it was fascinating because we have imagined all those stories between Claudia Ray, which is in one side, and some and the American one, the American one, which is on the other side of the planet, but they fit well together. So in using the images, we were constructing this kind of fun fiction, this kind of you take some characters from the real fictions and then you put them together and you see what happened between them.
Definitely. I think it really worked. I mean, especially what really stood out to me was that part. I think it was Adilia. She was talking about the dogs in space, right? Like the Laika. And then Donna Haraway talks about dogs, and then she's like, she brings this T-shirt, and it's such a nice kind of like a transition. There's this Adilia who's very sort of like very like her, and she's talking from her lab and you know talking about these dogs and everything, and then we see Donna Haraway, who's living in her cabin in a very homely kind of a situation, and she brings these and she tells the story about the dog on the picture being a cyborg as well, and we're imagining Laika as a cyborg as well in the space, right? So it's as if they're like these old partners, maybe, you know, like maybe I could imagine them as these bickering couple. They're like kind of like, and then but also really you know, giggling a lot together and just kind of like making fun of each other in a loving way, you know. So I think it really worked in a sense, especially that part really worked for me, because I don't know, maybe it was also because it's very easy, like there was a very visual transition, right, from dogs and then dogs on the t-shirt and stuff, but it was so nice.
And it was very moving because Adilia Kotoskaya, she was, when she was telling the story of Laika, so the first dog the first creature, the first living creature who went to space, when she was telling the story, she looks like, because Laika flight finished quite soon because the thermoregulation of the cabin was broken, so the dog was dying quite soon, and she was really moved about that. I mean, she can talk about people without any kind of feelings, and then she was talking about the dog, and she was like still kind of hurt by this failure, and I was really, it was really incredible.
And again, I think that's the answer to the question you got, right? Like about, so what happens if there are more and more women, or like if there's an all-female crew on the moon or anywhere else? This is what we get. We will get compassion for other creatures in space or together with us. There's going, and I don't know, I mean, my imagination goes wild just imagining, you know, the kinds of stories that might happen in this sci-fi where, I don't know, Adilia and then there's Laika, and you know, how the story would go if Adilia was the head of a, you know, the lab, or like the head of the mission and whatever, you know, like those kind of things. And if more women were at the head of these kind of missions. And I understand that I'm maybe you know, running the risk of, again, maybe essentializing women as very compassionate and very emotional, because women can also be harsh, women can be cynical and everything, and maybe sometimes not have any emotions or whatever. Yeah, all of that is possible, but at the same time we cannot really deny the fact that women generally, you know, we are again culturally, I guess, conditioned to or encouraged to feel more emotions, to express them more, and in that sense we're a lot healthier on the inside than say, again, non-females, let's call it that way.
Yeah,
males and females and non-females. Yeah, I think that's my favorite new binary.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if there are any questions from the others who are here in the in our Zoom or from the Facebook Live. I don't have any idea. I was totally absorbed by our discussion. Sorry for that. Paula, Anastasia, do you want to ask some questions? Evgenia, Luna, Ilaria, whoever.
There is quite a lot of us.
Leila is sending us some messages. When the docu will be on Netflix. So this is from Marion Mulder. Marion, I'm sorry I wasn't able to sell it to Netflix. When I did this documentary, Netflix, I think, was not really existing yet. So it was some times ago, and now I'm not sure that they will buy this kind of documentary. I mean, it was a very small attempt to do a documentary, so maybe I can propose to them. Wait and see. Maybe there were some talent scouts here watching the movie those 2 days, and they will contact us and buy the movie for Netflix. But for the moment, I don't have any date date for this being on Netflix. So there is another question. Why did you leave ESA? Is the space field too conservative in a way? This is an ESA spacesuit for the ESA astronaut, but I was not working at ESA. I was working for the French space agencies, which is the Centre National d'Études Spatiales, CNES. It's called CNES, and so. Yeah, in some way, after 20 years of career in space rockets, I have decided that I have made I have a good overview of everything. It was fascinating. It was quite conservative. It's also huge, so you don't have a lot of possibilities to do your own things, and yeah, it was sometimes a little bit difficult to be a woman there, to be a women technician there, because I was really a space engineer, so I was also working in the technical part. And so after 20 years, as I told myself, okay, I will be nice to myself, I will do a little bit of other project. And then I unfortunately I fell into activism, which is sometimes even worse than space. No, it's really challenging now to do activism. So yeah, so I think that I have left without any regrets, but with a lot of proudness, this specific technical domain. And of course it was because it was a little bit hard for me to fit in this kind of pre-formatted way of what it's a good engineer. And then I have some other questions. Any new projects like comic books? I would be very happy to do a comic book about space. Syinat, do you want to write something with us? And then we can ask maybe Maram, which she's here connected, and maybe we can ask Maram if she wants to draw then the comic book, the history.
I think that would be amazing.
Maram, are you here? What do you think?
I think that it will be great, but we have to include some lesbian love into it.
Of course, we will.
Maram,
don't worry.
The only condition that I have.
Maram, show you. Put the camera on. So you want to put some sex intercourse, some physical intercourse?
It cannot be. It can be everything. It's not all about sex, you know. But amazing job anyway. So, voila.
Okay.
And we will be able to issue that comic books.
We will work about the project of doing a comic book. It's super great.
Great.
So I have a question here. Luna wants to know what you say to young dykes wanting to become rocket scientists. don't do it. No, I'm joking. I think that it's a kind of a difficult. I don't know if it's. I suppose that it's quite the same in every country. I was studying in Italy and then I went to France, and the situation was quite similar. I think that engineering or STEM, as they call it in the US, science, mathematics, technology, and informatics, computer, etc., are very framed and coded as a masculine domain. And so when you are entering them, it's not a very safe place for a girl and then for a woman. So it's not super easy and comfortable to, for example, I remember this scene when I was my first day at the Polytechnic University in Milano, in Italy. I finished a class and then I was running out to go to the toilet just in between the changes of classes. And I was running and running and running and trying to find a women toilet, and there were no women toilet, of course.
Wow.
It was back in 1994 or 5. I think that maybe now the things have changed, but I had to go to the men toilet, like, and this was normal. We were 10 out of 400 students, or only 10 girls. So at that time it was even worse, maybe. Now I don't know. I don't have the impression that the situation has really changed. So if you want to do, if you are passionate with this thing, please go there and work from the inside, because as Donna Haraway is saying, of course, the environment is changing you. Of course, the influence from the outside is somehow modifying your way of being. But I really think that also we can change our environment, even if we are very little and very small. I mean, me entering in a men-only toilet and trying to understand how to use it. Also, the people who were there were like, oh my God. So we are also changing the places where we are trying to do something different in this very strict male-female division, as Donna Haraway said in the movie, or in some multiple other way of doing things. So be very, very courageous and full of strength, and then do it. And try to work from the inside to change those spaces and those places. Okay, so Evgenia, she's asking, should we lesbianize space? If so, how? I think that we should start by lesbianizing space little by little. With the ELC, our plan is then to start making, like, we are very soon opening the membership. So we are opening the membership, of course, for Europe and Central Asia. But I think that after that, we should open the membership for all kind of space creatures that want to be part of the.
It's nice. I really.
Syinat, the connection is not super. You are a little bit cut. I don't know. Can you talk?
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying it's a really nice idea. And then also another thing is what we could do is we could probably also celebrate the 12th of April, which is the International Space Day, or like Astronaut Day. Or is it Cosmonaut Day? Is it international? I mean, it is international in the post-Soviet space.
It's international, yeah.
Yeah. So we should celebrate it somehow.
Yeah, the lesbian in space, because finally, I think that one of the most amazing things is that the first American woman who went to space, Sally Ride, she made her coming out as a lesbian, unfortunately, just after her death, because she had a partner, and her partner was communicating with the press, saying that her beloved partner has just died. So I think that we can lesbianize space in a multitude of different ways. And then I have a question. Did you wrote your participation projection in the movie? I was very interested by the way you inscribe your embodied present in a very oniric and realistic, from Saida. Yes, how I was writing my own participation in the movie, it was quite interesting, I think, because I was starting by thinking about how can I make a feminist movie? How is possible to make a feminist movie? What does it mean to have a female gaze, or what does it mean to make a feminist documentary? And while doing that, I was kind of realizing that it was my first movie, so I didn't know any rules, I have no experience, etc. So while I was doing that, I was thinking, okay, maybe to not manipulate so much the people that I will interview and that I will somehow oblige to say something that deserve my discourse and my way of thinking and saying things. So I will put also myself inside. I will put myself in the images, so I will show the audience that it's not a neutral film that is showing the history of women in space, is a very personal point of view about what is my personal relationship with this history of women in space. So I think that my presence in the movie was about that, and then about the part that which is very oniric. I don't know if it's dreamy somehow in English. It's true, and I think that this dreamy part, it's linked exactly to the science fiction part, because all my imagination about science fiction is something that it's coming from an unconscious part of myself, and I think that it's something like a dream, or sometimes like a nightmare also. So I really think that my character was in the same time myself, but also a science fiction character, something that I have to write about. It was not totally myself. This is the reason why we have used this word of docu-fiction. It's a documentary, but it's also a fiction. So somebody is telling us that we already have some readers of our science fiction book with lesbians in space. And somebody, Maram, is asking, what was the moment I struggled the most during the making of the documentary? I think that one of the points, and I wanted to talk about it with you, Syinat, about that. One of the points I was really disappointed is that Valentina Tereskova never answered to my solicitation. She was not, she would not be one of the characters of the movie, and I was very sad about that. But in the same time, I think that at the end of the day, it was quite nice that she was not there, because a lot of images of her are in the movie. A lot of archive images are in the movie from Valentina Tereskova, which is the first woman in space in 1963. And so in this way, she's like an heroic character, but she's just a symbol. She's not a real.
She is just a symbol, yeah.
She's not a real person, a real hero. So she's just something that you can relate. She's a metaphor somehow. What do you think about that?
I completely agree with you, but and also in you know, like in more ways, to be honest, because for the longest period I never knew sort of like the background story for Tereskova, and apparently she was not trained as a space as an astronaut. She was sort of like a how to call, like an exemplary communist, you know, like or like a Komsomol person, right? So she was exactly like you're saying. She was the perfect soul for the first Soviet woman to go in space. And I don't know, I kind of feel maybe that's also something that's, you know, in her mind, that when she wouldn't agree to be in your film, that she doesn't, because all of these women, and like when I read in one of the comments, and I noticed that as well, that all of the women that you had interviewed, they all have so much pride in the work that they had done, but not themselves only, but also like in the work that had been done collectively with their groups, with their teammates and everything, right? And maybe that's not the feeling that Tereshkova could share, because she must realize that she was a symbol. She was not you know, a scientist woman. She was not somebody who was born thinking, you know, like, and dreaming of going to space, or, you know, something like that. She was just chosen out of, you know, thousands as this perfect image. And yeah, so I don't know, in a sense, to be honest, this actually even gives me reason to respect her more a little bit. Because I mean, there's a lot of, you know, stories and which are very much mixed with a lot of misogyny for Tereshkova, and her figure is very, you know, how to call it? It's not very, like, you cannot have this one. Yeah, exactly. That's the word that I'm looking for. Like, her figure is very controversial, but I also don't like how men use her to, you know, like, to undermine the idea of women in space, you know, and stuff like that. And I think for me, the fact that she doesn't go off on these documentaries where she would say, yeah, I'm a proud, you know, first woman in space and everything, and she actually realizes what her role was, this really gives me, I don't know, at least some reason to feel some respect for her.
Yeah, and I think about misogyny, it was really strong. I mean, I even have a colleague, which is somebody I really have a lot of respect for, because he was an historian of space, and so he traveled so many times to Russia and to the US and to India to study the stories, etc. And when I went to him at the beginning to catch the first contact, etc., he was telling me, "Oh no, forget Tereskova. She was drunk while she was flying." And I was, in my mind, I was, "Are you crazy?" I mean, she was going to space in 1963, and she thought about bringing vodka up there and getting wasted. How can you imagine that? And he said, yes, of course, she was puking all over the capsule. She was sick and whatever. And I said, maybe she was sick, but other astronauts before her were very sick, and it's not linked to the alcohol. It's just that the situation was quite complicated at that time. And so all these stereotypes and kind of putting women down, it's really impressive. It's really, it was strong while I was doing the documentary. Yeah. Some other questions, and then I think that we can close maybe. So I truly enjoyed the film. How did you balance telling your own story within the stories of those you interviewed from Juno? Ciao, Juno. I think that I have used myself and my my partner, because in my slash fiction I was dating Donna Haraway, of course. So I have used myself and Donna Haraway to be the kind of the don't laugh. I used myself and Donna Haraway to be kind of the red lines of the narration. So there were my very simple kind of story, young women now trying to become an astronaut and being rejected, and then there were Donna Haraway with this very complicated thinking around what is technology, what are the symbol links there, and what is feminism, etc. And then in the middle there were all these women appearing and telling their own stories, which are amazing. So I think that I have tried to construct a kind of a ladder. Is it the English word, the ladder, where myself is on the one side, Donna Haraway is on the other, and then there are all these different points you can grasp something from, and those are the stories of the women who are interviewed in the movie. Next question. Hello, Silvia. Thanks for sharing your movie. It was a great watch. I love Claudia Ray interview. She seemed so happy. In your documentary, you mentioned that all the footage of Tereskova Space Adventure were staged. Can you tell us why? This is the fact that the Tereskova footage was made up. This was the director of the Moscow Archive Center of Television. She told us, you know, everything or almost everything was really staged and prepared as a propaganda image. So I have said that during the movie, because for me it was in this part when I am putting the staging of her first flight and this Fritz Lang movie from 1929 together to show how anyhow technology should be staged and should be explained in a visual way, because technology is not very visual. So you are doing things in front of your computer, and so how you explain technology, how do you show technology? So this was a statement from the director, a great woman, the director of the Russian Museum of TV. I don't have any more concrete information about it, because the Russian literature is a little bit, I mean, for me, there is a problem of translation, etc. So I cannot swear 100% that what she told us was a real fact, but this is what she testified in front of us. So I think that there is a lot of documentation around how the Russian system staged or prepared images for propaganda in every different domain. So I'm not a huge expert in this, but I think that I can send you some information, some different books speaking about that. Maybe Syinat, you know something more about it. I don't know.
I myself recently discovered all of these things. Until then I lived under the illusion that she was a real astronaut and stuff.
No, she is.
And everything was not staged.
No. She went in space.
I mean, yeah.
But the images were staged.
I know. Yeah.
Some of them. Some of the images were staged. But she went in space, of course, everything is true. But some part of the filming of the images were reconstructed afterwards.
Yeah.
But then there is also this problem with the space race, let's call it like that. There are a lot of people who are in this trip saying that everything is fake, everything is staged. This was not the message. It was really to say that some images are constructed in some ways to show something that really happened.
Yeah. We can't hear you.
Sorry, now. I was muted. The feminist perspective on the space industry was absolutely mind-blowing and important. Thank you, Paola. Another question, did you continue to struggle to go to space and went there? Did you continue your struggle to go to space and went there? Are you still working in the space industry and in which area? I'm not working anymore there. I have my dream is now in my movie, and there is nothing left there. I will not go to space soon. So I'm working in lesbian activism. Who else did you film and could you not put in the final editing? This is a very interesting question. Or either astronaut you wanted to film and also refuse. I was filmed. There were one person I was not able to put in the movie. I will not disclose who this person is because I love her so much, but her interview was so strongly in the tracks of the conventional space politics that I cannot really twist her a little bit. So I decided to not put her in, and this was the only one who was not there. And then, as I was telling before, I would have been really happy to have the chance to speak with Valentina Tereskova, which is the first women astronaut from Russia. Comment from Lynn. Ciao, Lynn. Love to film. I saw the love story with Donna.
Yeah, that's true.
Of you fixing her chair. Yes. There are so deep history of connection between science fiction, fantasy, and imaginative spaces for LGBTQ artists, thinkers, and activists to develop their own visions of human societies, sexuality, etc., not considered by social norms. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you very much. It's very moving. Your message is very nice. And kisses to Los Angeles. Lynn is following from Los Angeles. I think that's it. That were all the questions that we had. I don't know if you want to say bye-bye to everybody.
Well, I mean, it's 1 a.m. here.
Yes, I'm sorry for that.
No. I mean, it was super awesome, and I think we really should do the comic story, sci-fi lesbians in space, and also we should invite all the space creatures to join ELC, ELC's membership, and maybe we could time it to the 12th of April to make it space themed.
Totally, I totally agree. Thank you, everybody. Like the Star Trek.
Spock.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everybody.
Thanks,
Ciao.
everyone. Thanks, Julia. It was so nice to talk.
Thank you.